Thokozani, Dimelang, Khanya, Lisedi. Hello everyone and welcome back to the one-on-one sessions with Coco. I'm sorry, and I'm your host Coco. I'm giving you guys tips, lessons, and teachings on everything spirituality. So today we're going to talk about different types of Sejeso. So we have spoken about Sejeso on its own. We have spoken about types of Sejeso, but we haven't really gotten deeply into it. So today I'm going to be covering different types of Sejesos and also how it is that you're going to know what type of Sejeso you have. Because one thing that I like to tell people when they come to me and say what they have is basically that thing out. We need to understand the type of Sejeso that you have so we can recommend you the best necessary herbs in terms of healing that particular Isdliso, right? So I have a bit of recap on what Sejeso is, that we won't get into the different types. We know what it is that we are talking about in details, right? So Sejeso, like I said in the previous video, it is a muti used, like it is a muti that is fed to a person, and it can be fed to you both spiritually and physically, right? So spiritually is whereas you have dreams, whereas you're eating, and spiritually and physically is whereas you go somewhere and someone pours muti in your food, and when you eat it, that muti enters your system and does its work, right? Each type of Sejeso has its own purpose of why it is being fed to a person. So not one Sejeso is the same, right? So for instance, we can take example looking at bargaining this thing Isdliso sinyama, right? So you'd find that you have like you're sent with Isdliso, but your Isdliso is to block your things, whereas the next person's Isdliso is to basically just make them disliked. So it's the same thing with Sejeso, whereas when you're being sent with Sejeso, there's a purpose why it's being sent to you. It can be to block your things, to make your things go wrong, or to just give you sicknesses, right? So the differences, like it differs on the purpose based on why it was given to you in the first place and what they spoke upon this muti before giving it to you, because everything spiritual is spoken upon by the person who is using it or sending it to that particular person, eh? Another thing I point out is that most Sejesos grow and become stronger when they're in your body, and others can metastasize into an object, right? So Sejeso is one of those particular herbs, whereas not all of them, because over time muti becomes weak, but with Sejeso it can be a bit different. There are types of Sejeso or certain types of Sejesos that when you eat them, they become stronger over time, they become worse over time. That's why you'd find a person may have been given Sejeso 5 years ago, and in those 5 years, maybe initially they didn't see anything, but as time goes on, they start encountering certain amount of sicknesses, or it starts working in a certain manner and becomes stronger as time goes on. So Sejeso is a type of muti that gets stronger as time goes on, but not all of them. There are others what they become weak over time, and we'll get into details about what those ones are and which ones get stronger over time. I also noted down that Sejeso can cause sicknesses that are incurable or even lead to death. So understand that this type of muti is a type of muti longer. When it's sent to you for sicknesses, you will get sick, right? And with the sickness that you get, you might find that they become incurable diseases, right? So it can become a chronic disease if you attend to it in a medical manner, right? So that is why most of the times when people have things like Sejeso and whatnot, it is very much advised for them to take it out traditionally with herbs and muti, because it was sent with herbs and muti. The reason for that is because when you use medical things, it gets worse, it doesn't go away because it is not the required medicine for it. As a matter of fact, it becomes stronger when you use medical things. It's the same as what we call Sefulan. So Sefulan is basically like the rotting of your skin, right? So basically they use muti to make your body rot. So as time goes on, when you take things medically, you become amputated, right? And even once you get amputated, it doesn't stop there. It continues to go on and on and on until you die, right? So the same thing applies with Sejeso, whereas if you attend to it with medical herbs, with medicine as opposed to herbs, then you get worse to a point whereas at some point it becomes incurable and you die. So the longer you keep the Sejeso in your system, the stronger it becomes and the harder it becomes for it to be removed altogether. And I'll also noted down that some Sejesos can block your ancestors from speaking to you or block your spiritual gift altogether. So some Sejesos, but the thing that I've noticed about most Sejesos, even though they're not created for the main purpose of blocking your ancestors. Automatically, given the fact that you have this muti in your body affecting your body from working properly, then automatically it affects your ancestors from speaking to you. So sometimes Sisha can be sent to you specifically for the purpose of making sure that you do not appease your ancestors. They block your ancestors from speaking to you. That's why you find that you are spiritually gifted and you've known that you're spiritually gifted for years, for decades, for a long time, but for some reason you're not moving forward. You're not getting guidance on what it is that you need to do. Sometimes it's not because your ancestors are not speaking to you or guiding you, but it's because there is something in your body that is preventing them from speaking to you and communicating with you. And in most cases, it can either be Isdliso, Tokoloshi, or Sinyama, right? Another thing, which is the last, oh, not the last thing, the second last thing is that others are a source of chaos in a person's life. They are there to bring conflict in your life. So basically, things continue to go well for you, but wherever you are, there is conflict, there is chaos, which is quite similar to how Isilwane works, Tokoloshi's work. They bring chaos in your life. The same applies with this type of Sejeso. And lastly, not all Sejesos are bad. Some are created for good purposes. So this could be a bit of a weird turn from everything that I've been saying, but it is actually real. Not all Sejesos are bad. Some Sejesos are brought to unite people. Some Sejesos are brought to build families, to build lives, man. And those Sejesos, well, we're gonna go into details about them, but they are basically the good types of Sejesos. I don't even know why we call them Sejesos, but basically the fact that it is muti that you are fed spiritually, then automatically it becomes a positive, or rather a good Sejeso at the end of the day, right? So the different types of Sejesos that we have, I have 4 categories, and in the last category there are 3 different types of categories that we're gonna look into with the last one, right? First one is what we call ccpd. So ccpd is one of the most dangerous types of Sejesos, so I felt like it's the first one we need to talk about now. Secondly, we have the normal Sejeso that is sent to you by your enemies. Your enemies can be anybody, your friends, your family members, your colleagues, it doesn't matter, right? Thirdly, we have Sejeso for couples, which is basically the good type of Sejeso. And lastly, we have Sejeso that is sent via Korobela, right? So in terms of the Sejeso by Korobela, is like Korobela is actually a love potion, right? So there are different ways in which it's distributed or sent or fed to the person, and hence that is why I categorized it into 3 so you guys can understand how each and every single one of the methods works in a person's body at the end of the day, right? So let's jump into it. I actually want to make sure that this video is not too long. So let's talk about ccpd. So ccpd is actually the most dangerous type of Sejeso, right? And this is whereas this is a Sejeso that moves around your body and can create like creatures in your body, right? So certain people that I've met that had or experienced CPD, you'd find that the CPD that they have, it's worms moving around their body. Sometimes you'd find that this person has a snake in their body. Sometimes they have a frog or like just any animal, right? So basically it is this type of situation whereas something that is not supposed to be in your body is put in your body, like, whew, even thinking about it is like very evil. It's like the most evil way of like trying to punish a person when you hate them. Like it's really messed up. So basically CPD is basically muti, that like Sejeso that moves around your body, hence it is called ccpd. Ccpd is a Sotho term, Pedi term, to actually indicate something that is yosipila, that is moving, but it's moving in your body, right? It can be sent spiritually or physically. So there isn't a limit on how it can be sent. But in most cases, one thing that I've learned, people tend to send it spiritually because it is a lot faster that way and works a lot faster that way, right? Yeah, it is faster that way and easily distributed that way, right? But even physically, a person can give you food with muti and you eat that, and automatically that particular muti in your body, in that particular muti that you ate, turns and becomes into this particular insect or creatures or whatever it is they want to move into your body, and it becomes that, right? It is a weapon from your enemies, and it is used to bring severe sicknesses, and often it leads to death. So this is the type of Sejeso at the end of the day, your enemies want you to suffer, but the outcome of your suffering has to be death. So at this point, they don't even care about whether or not you're successful, or you're gonna be successful, you're gonna reach certain milestones in your life. They don't care about that. At the end of the day, they just want you to get sick and die at the end of the day, right? Hence that is why it is a Sejeso that allows them, like the muti, to turn into a living thing in your body, and automatically becomes very painful. So in most cases, people that have this thing, like they can feel it moving or feel whatever is being sent to them moving in their body. For instance, people that are sent with worms, they can feel the worms moving around their body. Sometimes it's painful, sometimes it's just itchy, right? But as time goes on, it metastases into other sicknesses that can be very chronic at the end of the day. And for those why longer they use like creatures, those ones want to make sure that even when you're suffering in severe pain. Like there was an instance, I don't even know if I should talk about it, but basically, right? Gossiping. Basically, right? This particular woman was given Sejeso. I don't know them. Like I was young at the time. It's a story that I heard, right? And when they went, like it was very painful in their tummy. But whenever they went to the hospital to see what's going on, when they were doing operations and surgeries, they'd always get a full steak, uncooked steak. Like imagine entire steak in your body, and they'd remove it. A few weeks later it comes back. So that's how it is. That's why I'm saying that Sejesos are not removed medically, because when you move them medically, they're not gone. They're just gonna come back, and when they come back, they become stronger and bigger and whatnot. So ccpd is that type of Sejeso where it metastases into an object, a creature, or even an insect, right? And it continues to grow and be stronger as time goes on. I also noted down that often it is accompanied with a foul odor. So people that have this type of Sejeso can also be people that are seen as very attractive, and the people that want to attack them also want them to be less attractive. So you find that that person is having a very foul odor to them, but this foul odor, they don't know where it comes from. It's because of the muti that is inside you. Basically, this type of Sejeso, it rots your body from the inside, right? Your body starts rotting from the inside, and as time goes on, it becomes external. It starts showing externally. It's very similar to Sifulani, but in this instance, this is something that you ate that is moving around your body. But bear in mind, ccpd can also be another form of muti, like whereas they can even just send it, like not in the form of Sejeso, but in the form of another way, whereas you have something moving in your body. But the most common way is through Sejeso, right? I also noted down that oftentimes people who send it just want you to stink, to be sick, to stink, and to just suffer physically, right? So this is where, as you find that they use it, they send it in a way longer. They're making sure that you don't get sick, like you don't die immediately, right? You can be as sick as ever, but you will not die. You'll just suffer. They just want to see you suffering. That is how cruel people can be. Like, it's actually really messed up. And lastly, the longer it is unattended to, the worse it becomes. So the longer it stays in your body, the stronger the muti becomes, the more bad your sicknesses become, and you get to a point whereas even when you go to the hospital, they're telling you, okay, this is an incurable disease, there's nothing you can do about it, you just have to let it be, right? Secondly, we have the normal Sejeso from our enemies. So this is the typical Sejeso that we all hear about everywhere. You're having dreams of yourself eating jiggy the next morning, your tummy hurts. This is it. This is the one. You don't feel anything moving your body, but you just feel an unsettled feeling in your tummy, right? So I also noted down that this is also dangerous, but it affects people different based on its purpose, right? So with this one, it can be anything. Most of the times you find that it is used to then blockages in your life, to bring darkness, to bring misfortune, to bring minor sicknesses, and even bring a stroke. So there's something that we call a spiritual stroke that can be used by muti that is being handed to you, or rather muti that you are fed, and most of the times they can use the Sejeso to do that, right? So it can be sent to you physically and spiritually. So in terms of how it is sent to you, it doesn't necessarily matter. The effects are the same, because it is not like the one that moves around your body. It is just muti that is in your body, standing still, but doing its work to bring misfortune and blockages in your life. This is where, as you find yourself being someone who's spiritually gifted, but completely you can't even see anything coming from your ancestors. There's blockage in terms of your life spiritually and physically, and you can't get a job, your finances are bad, you're often sick, you have constipation on a regular basis. This is the type of Sejeso that we're talking about. Hence, it is the most common type of Sejeso that is actually famous at this point. Then I also noted down that this is the type of Sejeso made for you to suffer in all departments of your life. So it's not really directing into one thing, whereas the first one is made mostly out of jealousy for you to get sicknesses, and that's it, right? To get sick and die and suffer before you die. This one is to make sure that all departments of your life are affected, and this allows other muti to be sent to you. So it's a gateway that the enemies use to send other sicknesses to your body on a regular basis. Let's say, for instance, they even want you to have an accident. You bought a new car, they want you to have an accident, but they don't want you to die. They just want to see you suffer and losing things and seeing your life falling apart. This is the one that they will use now. In women, it can be a cause of miscarriages and infidelity and infertility. And in men, it can result in your man parts not working, whereas you'd find this person saying that they need to get Isdliso, yabana, like, those herbs that actually help your male reproductive system to work. But in this case, they don't work because you're not attending to the main issue, but rather you're attending to the effects of this muti, right? So hence, at the end of the day, people that have this type of Sejeso, you find that they're not able to have kids, they become infertile, they experience a lot of miscarriages, and the men are not able to perform in terms of that, right? Another thing that I noted down is that it is accompanied by severe stomach pains and can get worse over time, along with constipation. This is whereas this person cannot do anything. And one thing that I forgot to mention, got the last one, right? The one year ccpd, sometimes you don't even like, it doesn't just move in J, but you can also hear something in your tummy growling, a certain noise. That is also a sign of ccpd. That's the type of situation that ccpd is. I just wanted to put that out so you guys know, in case you have that, right? So going back to this one, another point that I noted down is that it results in other minor sicknesses, and when treated medically, it becomes worse, just like the other one, and it also affects your ancestors, and it sits on your chest. So in terms of affecting the ancestors, understand that lefatla, this part of your body is called lefatla in my language. I don't know if it's intuition or what, but it's called lefatla. This is whereas when your ancestors are evoking, they move from below your body in basically your lower abdomen, which is your root chakra, and it goes up, and it also goes through your throat. And sometimes if they're going to give you visions, you feel the energy moving to your head where you see visions. Sometimes when they're evoking, you feel them coming through your mouth. That is where, as you see sangomas shouting and whatnot, right? So that is actually the way that the energy travels in our body, from the root chakra all the way to the crown, and through the crown, through the mouth, the third eye, and the crown chakra. That is where certain types of divinations and spiritual revelations are brought to you, right? So basically what they do, for this particular Sejeso, you can feel it heavy on your chest and sometimes on your throat. Like you can feel something stuck in this particular part of your body, and that can indicate that this Sejeso is blocking your ancestors. Its main purpose is to block your ancestors, man. And when it comes to CPD, what happens is that you constantly feel the movement around, like, your chest to your throat. You constantly feel the movement. Sometimes you feel like you're gonna puke, but it doesn't happen because this muti is supposed to stay in your body. Okay? Number 3, we have the Sejeso for couples, right? So this is where a person and their loved one, their partner basically, decide to go to Gogo and say, Gogo, we want to stay together forever and ever, which is kind of romantic. I think it's kind of sweet. It's weird, but it's sweet. No judgments, right? It's actually a very beautiful thing. So it's actually the type of Sejeso that is used by couples to actually strengthen the relationship, to make sure that the relationship doesn't break, to make sure that the partners do not cheat, the partners do not look at anybody. You'll be the apple of their eye for life because of this muti, which is beautiful, man. Both parties are aware of this muti, and whereas both parties are aware of this muti, there is no side effects to this because it's something that has been decided upon, and the muti that is used for this is actually the muti that doesn't have any like bad side effects at the end of the day, because it is to join the two loved ones into being like obsessed with each other. That is so beautiful. And fun fact, right? One thing that I want to put into light about this type of Sejeso is the fact that back in the olden days, a lot of our ancestors used this to make sure that marriages stay strong, right? Because a lot of people will be like, no, the reason why marriages were stronger back then is because our grandmothers, like, they put up with a lot of BS from our grandfathers. It's not necessarily the case. Most of the times muti was used to make sure that the family becomes stronger, right? And as time goes on, that is actually a practice that has been forgotten and lost, and hence at the end of the day, that is why you'd find that no one's lasting in their marriage or relationship. That is why we're always jumping from one person to the next. But I'm not judging. Njolo is using all of us. Okay, and also I noted down that it is also used in polygamous marriages to avoid conflict, marital conflicts, and witchcraft amongst the wives and the partners of the person, right? So basically it is there to bring harmony within the relationship, whereas you'll be able to look at certain issues, certain problems, and fix them in a more productive way, as opposed to the way that our generation is doing at this day and age. Like, I'm not judging, like, I'm part of this generation, so half of the things that I'm talking about, I'm speaking from experience now. And lastly, which is the last type of Sejeso, we have the korobela, the love potion. So I made a video about that, which goes into details about the love potion, but it is a type of Sejeso as well, hence I put it here as well, man. So this is a basic love potion, right, to make someone fall head over heels in love with you. And it's not like being in love with a person, it's basically to make this person obsessed with you in a way long water. Whatever you say is key, you're God. Whatever you're saying, it's it. No questions asked. Né? It is distributed in 3 different types of ways. So hence these 3 different types of ways is the categories that I've made for it. Né? First one is in food. This is whereas you go to a sangoma, they give you muti, you put it in your partner's food and you speak on it, and when you give it to them, they eat it and become head over heels in love with you. Secondly, it is distributed through sex and intimacy. This is whereas a ritual is done on a person's private part, like they can cut you with a razor or make you steam on something. Like, there are different ways in which they do this, right? And automatically when you're intimate with the next person, they become obsessed with you, né? And the third one is whereas they use dirty underwear. It can be your underwear as the person who wants to distribute the Sejeso, or the other person's underwear, and the rituals are done on this particular underwear to make them obsessed with you. So basically this one has its pros and cons. The pros is that your partner will be obsessed with you and love you, and for people that love people that are obsessed with them, is perfect, right? But it can also result in conflicts, fights, and whatnot, and that is something that I spoke about in the previous video when I talked about it, right? However, this is the type of Sejeso that actually becomes weak over time. So the others, they only become stronger as time goes on, but this one, man, it has its own duration. Let's say after a year, it's weak again, right? You have to refill it over and over again. But the longer you use it, it might have negative side effects towards the person who is being fed this multi to a point whereas their life becomes complicated. They have temper tantrums, they are always angry, and even the obsession becomes very unhealthy. That is whereas you'd find that a man ends up killing their wife or murdering their partner and whatnot because of the effects of this particular multi, right? So there are different symptoms you need to look at when you have Sejeso. The first one is loving your partner beyond all reason. Okay, I'm gonna clarify on this one. It can be normal, you can care about a person, but when muti is involved, you have no mind of your own. This person controls each and every single thing that you do, and it's not in a good way, right? And even when people try to warn you, you don't see reason, you don't see how wrong this is, right? But yes, there are people that love unconditionally and whatnot, which is a good thing. When that's the case, when you're a lover boy or a lover girl like that, it has nothing to do with muti. It's just you having a pure heart, which is beautiful. I like that. Number 2, you have stomach pains on a regular basis. Your tummy hurts constantly, you're constipated. It just doesn't get better as time goes on. You're just always in pain on a regular So yeah, the third sign, or rather symptom, that you may have is this, or is financial difficulties. Your finances are just bad. Number 4, feeling something moving around your body. That is a sign of ccpd without any other things that will confuse you. You'll feel something moving around your body, and this thing is not good, right? Number 5, finding worms in your bed every morning. This happens to a lot of people because in most cases when ccpd is sent to a person, they use worms, which is very disgusting, right, for these people to do. Number 6, unending sicknesses. 7, issues with jobs. 8, constant conflicts, like you never find peace. And remember, I tell this to people all the time, worrying conflict strengthens muti. So when people make sure that you are always fighting with people, they do it to make sure that the muti becomes stronger, right? Another one is that loss of breath or difficulty breathing, because some of the Sejeso, they sit on your chest, yes, they're in your tummy, but they move to your chest and they make it difficult for you to breathe and whatnot, right? Another one is constant manipulation in your relationship. This is where, as your relationship is very toxic, but you cannot leave because there's muti that is involved to make sure that you don't go anywhere. They control everything that you do, they control everything that you say. It's their word against yours, and yours doesn't mean shit, right? Another one is being unable to evoke your ancestors. Another one is forgetting your dreams, facing depression, facial acne. That is one is usually for the ones by long, they are very attractive, and the people that send them Sejeso want to make them less attractive. That is like the most pettiest reason to use muti on a person. Like, it is so petty. I don't even get it at this point, right? Another one is body changes. You either lose a lot of weight or you gain a lot of weight, right? So you find yourself having a very nice slim figure type of thing, but for some reason, as time goes on, after you're given this Sejeso, your body tends to change a lot. And that is also because of the fact that this Sejeso is sent to you specifically for the purpose of making you less attractive, right? Like, I don't know how insecure a person has to be to actually send muti to a person so they look less attractive. It's messed up. Okay, but that's people businesses, right? Another one is back aches all the time, and lastly, feeling movement in your body and constantly on your chest and your throat. So that is what I was talking about, the Sejeso that moves around your chest and your throat. Like I said, most of the time it's ccpd, but even the normal Sejeso, when it's sent to your body for the main purpose of blocking your ancestors to feel something stuck on your chest, which is where it's where your ancestors pass, like your spirit passes when it's being evoked, right? So that is it on Sejeso. I hope it gives you guys clarity, you guys understand all these different types, and you guys know exactly what it is that you can expect when these Sejesos are in the mix. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me. I hope you guys have a beautiful one. Categorizing. Bye bye.